Welcome to Thursday morning. My name is Kwame Owusudan. So this is the newspaper review segment here on Pan-African Television, broadcasting from Accra, Abilinkwe, across 46 other African countries. Today, we are going to be discussing a number of issues. South Africa entreats world court to weigh Israel's Rafah offensive. That's a story captured by the Daily Graphic newspaper. Ministerial reshuffle. Oforiatta finally booted out. Scrap draconian taxes now, NDC tells Baumia. That's captured by the Inside newspaper. I've been joined in the studios by Honorable Collins Atmako. Good morning.
Good morning.
Honorable Linus Afuseni, good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Pratt, good morning.
This honorable here.
Honorable.
So let me start with Honorable Linus Afuseni on the South African matter, respectfully.
Yeah, so it's a continuing story. But first of all, I think that it's proper for me to congratulate Collins, because sharing the same platform with him, it will be remiss on my part not to congratulate him, even though he's an injury time player. He's been given an opportunity, one, to improve upon his CV, and two, to contribute to the development of the country. And so, Collins, congrats. We are going to a very interesting place. That was the place I started with. It's quite tricky, but it's interesting. And by that advice I was given by Ato Ahoy, I'll give to you. Go there with an open mind. Be prepared to learn. Engineers are very good. I like them because they fix everything. And I think that if you go with an open mind, you come back. You come out the better of it.
Thank you.
Now the South African story is a continuing story. South Africa has demonstrated that their history will guide their actions. I mean, they opposed apartheid. Once upon a time, the blacks were second-rate citizens in South Africa. They were deprived of all privileges and rights. They had to take passes to be able to go to certain places. They faced constant bombardment from the white minority in South Africa. They were under occupation, they felt so. And so that history, that experience had always guided their action. And so they have always stood for the oppressed. They have always stood for people who are tortured. They have always stood for people who clearly have no right in their homeland. And so when the Israeli conflict started, South Africa seriously opposed the conflict from day one. They felt that it was an unjustified conflict, even though they decried and deplored the attack, the 7th October attack on Israel. They thought that the response of Israel was disproportionate to the attack, and that the people of Palestine were being vicariously punished for the actions of Hamas. It's not only that, they thought that the actions breached the international humanitarian law and the law of conflict, and civilians were bombarded without recourse to their rights as civilians. And the South African agenda was to cleanse Gaza and Palestine of Israelis, of Arabs and Palestinians, and make it possible for them to annex the strip and create a greater Israel. And they thought that the world could not stand by and look unconcerned while Israel was perpetrating that kind of genocide on the people of Palestine. So they took the matter to the International Court, Human Rights Court, and they won. Because the interim measures that the court pronounced on Israel were measures that cannot be complied with if Israel doesn't stop the war. And so that's why South Africa is saying that, look, I think that the international community must draw the attention of Israel to the interim measures announced by the courts. Because if Rafah is going to attack, and Rafah is the last remaining stronghold apart from the beaches, a safe place apart from the beaches, and Rafah presently is populated by more than 1.2 million people. The people have been running and running and running, and there's no safe haven. There's no way Israel will continue its onslaught on the Palestinians and Hamas without threatening the lives of civilians. And so the interim measures announced by the court are relevant in this particular case in stopping what the South Africans believe will be the carnage if Israel launches its attack. Now, I think that South Africa's actions, position, and case at the International Human Rights Court has had effect because the United States of America, and particularly President Biden, has asked Israel not to launch any attack on Rafah without making enough arrangements or plan for the evacuation of civilians. Initially, Netanyahu was bent on attacking Rafah, and then saying that that was the only way that they could guarantee their own personal existence, the existence and security of Israel. He's justified that in recent days by the freeing of the 2 hostages, which was done through military action. He believes that it is only military action that can solve the problem. Just this morning, Australia, Canada, and some other Western countries have added their voice to that of the UK and the United States of America in calling on Israel not to launch an attack on Rafah without creating safe corridors. And there are no safe corridors. I mean, all other areas in the Strip have been bombarded. No water. There are places that you can recognize now after the bombardment, and it is just like one reporter said, it is just way impossible to create a safe corridor for the people in Rafah to leave before any bombardment can take place. And that is why the South Africans have said that if you look at the interim measures announced by the court, it was tantamount to calling for a ceasefire. And so they are still bent on getting the international community to get Israel to announce a ceasefire on humanitarian grounds and for peace, order, and negotiations to take place. I listened to Mahmoud Abbas yesterday of the PLO. He also said that Hamas must move from their position of non-negotiation with Israel and also accept the existence of Israel, and that the 2-state solution was probably the best now that they could pursue. So clearly, I think that for me as an African, I'm proud of South Africa. I'm proud that in the face of all this bombardment, in the face of lethargy of the Western world in controlling Israel because of the powerful Israeli lobbies in Europe and America, South Africa took the mantle, took the first step of taking or invoking the international legal order to call South Africa to order. To call Israel to order. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Hello, colleagues. Morning. Congrats.
Thank you so much.
It's been a while. It has,
Yes.
indeed. The last time we met was when you came from your
I left to the
constituency.
constituency to do some campaigning.
Right.
Take the opportunity to thank my delegates and constituent for giving me another opportunity, at least to represent them, continue to represent them in Parliament. I'm just reading the story, and it's from Reuters. This, I think, is carved from the Reuters, and I just want to read a portion, I think paragraph 4. Israel has said it is planning to expand its ground assault into Rafah. Mr. Husseini, I thought we had gone past this issue. For Israel to still be planning to even expand. And if you look at the words, the choice of words, they are assaults. Which means they for them, they are not done yet. in spite of all the discussion that has gone on international discussion, international media, world leaders talking about this, they are still planning on expanding their assaults. And let me just conclude. It's ground assault into Rafah, where over 1 million Palestinians have sought refuge. 1 million. Israel is still planning to expand assaults to a group of people totaling over 1 million, in spite of all that has happened all these years. I sometimes it's difficult to have this discussion, So what does Israel want us to say more? What do they want us to do again? I mean, I've listened to so many discussions on international media on this particular matter. I was hoping that by this time, lawyer, cool heads should be prevail. I mean, what do we get from killing people? What do we get from killing people and bombarding a group of people? And for Israel to even think of expanding the assault, it's even frightening. It's frightening. And let's read paragraph 2. The International Court of Justice last month ordered Israel to take all measures within its power to prevent its troops from committing genocide. Genocide. So we've gotten to a stage where an international body is even appealing to Israel to take measures to prevent genocide. I mean, the choice of words. This is from Reuters. I mean, what else can you say? This is getting extremely out of hand. And we can just plead that Israel and Palestinian, Hamas, and all the interested parties, let good heads prevail. I mean, you watch some of the scenes and kids, hospitals being bombed, people lying on stretchers, and they are being carried from. I mean, it's a scene that. I mean, there are too many intelligent people in Israel. There are too many intelligent people in Palestine, Palestinians. Too many intelligent people all over the world, international diplomats, and I think we should be able to find a lasting solution to this matter. We cannot be discussing today, on the 15th of February 2024, an expansion of assaults to 1 million people. That for me is quite frightening, and I just want to appeal to the leadership in those areas to allow cool heads to reign. This is really, really troubling. Really, really troubling.
Thank you, Honorable. Let me remind viewers that we're streaming live on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Pan-African Television. We are also on YouTube for those of you who intend to watch us and send your messages via those platforms. You are at liberty to do so. We will read the messages as and when we receive them. So yes, keep them coming in. Also, the WhatsApp number will be on your screens very shortly, so you can also send WhatsApp messages to us. Mr. Pratt, please.
Well, I think, first of all, it is appropriate, to extend double congratulations to our brother and friend Collins. First, for winning the primaries, which enables him to contest to stay in Parliament, and secondly, for his elevation to ministerial status. I don't know if we're going to discuss that.
Yeah, we will.
So I can then make my comments on the general reshuffle, which appears to be much ado about nothing, but we will get there. Now, with regards to Palestine, what is amazing and shocking about Palestine is not the genocide which is being committed by Israel. Apartheid regimes all throughout history have been genocidal. Apartheid regimes have always committed atrocities and so on. So that is not new. What is shocking and surprising is the fact that the government of Kwame Nkrumah's Republic of Ghana still declares publicly that it stands with Israel. I mean, it's so shocking, it's unbelievable that the government, which is supposed to be speaking for me, for all of us, is still happily declaring that it stands with Israel. What a government! And you can't understand it. Because even the United States of America, which is the main supplier of weapons, which has given Israel a lot of diplomatic assistance, has vetoed resolutions in the UN Security Council and so on. Britain, Germany, Canada, all of them are retreating from that position. Today, you cannot get even Joe Biden to say that he stands firmly with Israel. And yet the government of Ghana continues to insist that it stands firmly with Israel. On what basis? First, under international law, and this is clear, occupying powers, occupying countries, occupying forces have no right of self-defense. And I dare anybody to challenge me, under international law, if you're an occupier, you have no right of self-defense. It is the occupied who has a right to resist. The right to resist, including armed resistance. So this whole thing about, as if Israel and Palestine can be placed at the same level, it's not true. Israel is an occupying force. The Palestinians are victims of occupation. They are victims of genocide. They are victims of apartheid and so on. And international law fully recognizes the right of Palestinians to resist. You understand? Now, look at what is happening in Palestine, especially in Gaza. It is clear from statements made by Prime Minister Netanyahu, his defense minister and others, that the objective is not just to get rid of Hamas. The objective is to steal more Palestinian lands and push the Palestinian people into the desert. That's a crime under international law. Netanyahu is now talking about from the river to the sea. What does that mean? That Israel's domain will be from the river to the sea. That's a complete wipe out of Palestine. And you see, history is there to guide us. The whole land was Palestine until the Balfour Declaration eventually got to the United Nations and so on. And it was agreed that part of Palestine be used for the establishment of the state of Israel. Okay? Now, if you look at the map of Palestine, Israel has occupied virtually 2/3 of the land. And the indigenous people of Palestine have been pushed into Bantustans. Can you imagine that for Palestinians to travel from one Palestinian town to the other, they need a visa from Israel? How is that possible? Gaza is completely delinked from the West Bank. Israeli settlements have been built in between. If you go to Israel today, and to some extent Palestine today, there are different roads for Israelis and different roads for Palestinians. How can we tolerate this? And we have tolerated this. We've tolerated the belligerence of Netanyahu. We've tolerated actually the madness of the Israeli establishment for too long. Everybody is talking about a ceasefire. Israel says no, we will not have a ceasefire. But you see, in all of this, the weakness of the Israeli apparatus and its military machine has been exposed. You remember the 6-Day War, that is the June 1967 war, where Israel fought against virtually all of the Arab nations. It took 6 days for Israel to capture the Golan Heights, for Israel to virtually dominate the space. After 4 months, Israel cannot claim that it has achieved even one of the objectives it set itself. This total humiliation for Israel. October 7th has demonstrated that Israel is not that huge monster that people believe it is. Yesterday I was looking at a video of the October 7th attack, and I saw Israeli soldiers, Charlie, running from the, Al-Qassam Brigade. They are not invincible. If they persist in carrying out this genocide, there will be consequences not just for Israel, but for the world, if they persist. You know, the thing that shocks me, and I must say, I mean, the hypocrisy of the West. Now today, when I'm talking about the hypocrisy of the West, I'm even ashamed. Because the hypocrisy of the West is even better than the stand that the Ghana government has taken. At least, they are mouthing condemnations of Israel. Okay? Our government is not mouthing condemnations of Israel at all. But the hypocrisy of the West is amazing. Joe Biden and America say that they don't want the war to continue. They want a ceasefire. That Israel should not launch an assault on Rafah and so on. And yet, they keep supplying weapons and cash to Israel. Why? Why? Who are they fooling? You know? But look, what is happening, if it's not brought to an immediate end, would have serious repercussions on every country in the world. In the late 1960s, everybody thought it was just a Middle East affair and so on. That has had consequences on the global economy, and the world has not recovered from what happened in the Middle East in the late 1960s and early 1970s. How much were we buying a barrel of crude oil? The prices of oil escalated to levels unprecedented, unbelievable, because of the crisis there. Now, the Middle East, as a geographical location, is extremely important for world trade. The Middle East, as a place which has huge deposits of oil, of gas, and so on, is extremely crucial for the survival of the human race. Energy, the energy question. You understand? Even this effort, you know, to bring about climate, to halt climate change and so on, you cannot do anything without reference to the Middle East. Now, if you want the Middle East to burn, let's continue being stupid. If you want the Middle East to burn, let's forget about all our humanitarian attributes and support the madness that is happening there. You know, when we talk about apartheid and genocide and so on, Israel has a long history. Israel supported apartheid South Africa. In its war against black people, it supported racism in apartheid South Africa, the worst form of racism. It exchanged intelligence with apartheid intelligence services. It provided weapons to the apartheid government. It is even believed that it's on the basis of intelligence provided by Israel that Nelson Mandela was arrested. You understand? And we still continue to tolerate this uncivilized behavior, this genuine madness. It's unbelievable. It does appear that we are waiting for something extremely dramatic to happen before we begin to put on our thinking caps. And if that is our wish, may our wish be granted. If that is our wish, Israel has to be stopped by whatever means possible. You know that the ruling of the International Court of Justice is enforceable. It's enforceable through the Security Council. And if the Security Council, the ruling is vetoed, its enforcement is vetoed, South Africa can then go to the General Assembly and get a resolution, which is a binding resolution. You understand? It has happened before in history and so on. So I would urge South Africa to go the full hog, you know, and ensure that we stop this genocide. And my other colleagues have said it. South Africa is playing a very crucial role in world affairs today. Of course, the internal difficulties with South Africa, the management of the national economy is not the best and so on. But in terms of international politics, the global fight against apartheid and racism, South Africa is showing the way. South Africa continues to be a staunch supporter of the Saudi Arab Democratic Republic, its struggle against Moroccan occupation. South Africa continues to support the resistance of the Palestinians against apartheid. South Africa all over the world has taken a clear stand in favor of the forces that are fighting against repression and domination. And for that purpose, South Africa needs tons of commendation, especially its foreign minister, who is leading this charge. An amazing woman. You understand? I met her a couple of months ago in Joburg. And I was shocked about her depth of understanding of international politics. Her vision of a new Africa, which is almost the same as the vision of Nkrumah. Our presidential candidates are supposed to be delivering visions here. What are they telling us? Wish list. That's what they are throwing at us. They should speak to the South African foreign minister, and they will realize the difference between a vision and a wish list. She's an amazing woman, and I salute the South African government, I salute the Palestinian resistance, and I salute all the forces around the world who are engaged in this massive resistance for sanity and decency in international affairs.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. You're still watching the Newspaper Review segment here on Pan African Television. May I remind you again that we are streaming live on Facebook, facebook.com/Pan African Television, and also on YouTube. I've seen a couple of your messages. I'll read them. But now, though, we have to look at the other story, which is making the waves on all media platforms. New ministers face high expectations. 18 out. Mohamed Amin Adam, Finance, elevated. Kojo Ponkroma, Works and Housing, moved. Lydia Seyram Alasan, in our own Abelinkwe, Sanitation and Water Resources. I think I need to get a house in Abelinkwe, because it appears Cecilia Lapa and this one, they are all Abelinkwe people. Dr. Bernard Okoboy, Health, Fatima to Abubakar, Information, elevated. Ama, your friend has been elevated. Anyway, and our very own Honorable Collins Adumako, in. Right, so let me start with you. The conversation has been about the high expectations that these new ministers have relative to, the administration of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, particularly because of where we are now in terms of our economy and in terms of our, our fiscal, our policies generally, So, will they be able to perform to our expectations? Will they be able to deliver? How are they going to salvage the quagmire in which we find ourselves in?
We have to perform. We don't have an option. We have to perform. I don't think we have an option. I was pleasantly surprised when I got a call from a lady from the presidency that the president wanted to meet me. Of course, I could not have asked what exactly the president wanted to talk to me about, but it was in the afternoon, Tuesday afternoon.
Wow.
And then supposed to meet the president at 9 o'clock. Of course, there were rumors about reshuffle, so I got a feeling that something of that nature. But I didn't know exactly where he wanted to take me to. So I got there, and he informed me that he had decided that he wanted me to go to the Energy Ministry to assist the minister to prosecute the government's agenda within that space, and that he wanted to tell me personally first before he makes it public on Wednesday. So I left the presidency at around 11 p.m. and then the following day the communication came out. So take the opportunity first of all to thank him for identifying me amongst the lots. For me, I don't think it means I'm better than the others who were not called. I just feel that at this particular point in time, the president feels that I'll be in a better position to assist the minister. And I thank my constituents for giving me an opportunity to even come to Parliament. I'm sure if I was not a member of Parliament, I wouldn't have been noticed as quickly as I've been now. So I want to thank the president and my constituency for the opportunity. Yesterday I also had a very fruitful discussion with the Minister of Energy himself. He congratulated me and assured me that I'm welcomed. And so when I go through the process in Parliament and eventually I'm approved, he intends to work with me going forward. So back to your question about expectations. Yes, it's an election year. So a lot will be expected of us. We have about 10 months to the very important general elections. As a deputy minister, because the constitution is quite silent on your specific role, I'm sure when I get to the ministry, the minister will decide on where he feels my competencies will be more appreciated. And I look forward to working with him. But I can assure the minister in Ghana that I'll do my best to see to the realization of the energy strategy that the government has. I've seriously begun reading around the issues within the space, and I hope that I go through the vetting smoothly. It is my hope that this new crop of people who have come in, yes, there were some movements within the space. Kojo Nkrumah has moved from information to Western Housing. My very good friend Fati has been elevated to an information minister. I was quite excited about that. The Western Housing Minister has been moved to the Roads Ministry. And Okoboy, very welcoming human being, has moved to the Health Ministry. He's had some experience as a Deputy Health Minister already, so I'm sure it's going to be quite a smooth process for him, having also worked with an agency under the Health Ministry, NHIA. So I'm sure it's going to be quite a smooth process. He's also been a member of Parliament before, so he's quite familiar with the vetting processes. So I expect that his process will be quite smooth. What is important is to consolidate the gains that this government has already made and see how best we can achieve what has not already been achieved within this last 10 months that we have. Of course, people have reservation about the timing, but of course the prerogative and the power belongs to the president. He decides to appoint and disappoint at his behest. And he felt that at this particular point in time, he needed to do some shake-up within this government. If you ask me why, it will be difficult for me to explain, because I'm not in his mindset. And when he met me, he did not indicate, he didn't go too much into the reasons why he's done what he's done at this particular point in time. The best I can say is that I can assure you and our viewers and the Ghanaian public that I'll go in there and do my best. Yeah, people have their reservations about, as I said, the timing of the shake-up and whether within 9 months we could make an impact. But I believe that it's not how long you stay in a particular place. It is the impact that you make within that short time, and that we can assure you.
I mean, there are a number of names which came up, obviously, which raised some significant concerns and or excitement, but people still claim that it's too late in the day. For instance, the finance minister, for instance, Kwame Menu. These are people, a lot of, particularly those in Parliament and the Ghanaian people were expecting to be mooted out long ago, but they were still there. Now, I'm not expecting you, obviously, to criticize them, but if you look at the timing and where we are now, the IMF, and especially what the president said, with regards to Kenneth Furata, that, let him go through the IMF negotiations, and after that, he will personally see to his exit. And it's been months after he's made those pronouncements. But, so clearly, I mean, what do you have to say?
The person replacing the finance minister is also an experienced person, Dr. Amin Anta. He's been in the political or public space for some time. During President Kufuor's time, he was the Tamale municipal mayor, Tamale mayor. He became a deputy energy minister before he was elevated as a Minister of State at the Finance Ministry. And he worked closely with the outgoing minister over this past 6-7 months. And so he's an economist by profession. He was well known within the energy space, but he's an economist, an energy economist, which has some similarities. He has a very strong financial background himself. And I've worked with Amin Anta for some time. I served with him on the Finance Committee of Parliament. And I have no doubt in my mind that yes, there are very, very tough challenges within that particular ministry. But I believe that his transition into clearly taking over the ministry will be very smooth. He has a lot of friends within, having worked CSO with ASEP. And so he has a lot of friends within the technical space. And I suspect that he's going to have a very smooth process. I listened to him this morning on City, and he sounded very, very confident that he intends to continue from where we've been left off. Of course, this whole IMF negotiations and all that is still ongoing. If you know the debt restructuring, the commercial aspects is still ongoing, and so he's been part of the team, the whole team going through the process, and I expect that he can easily fit in. Okoboy, as I said, is not new to the health ministry, and so yes, you may have your views why the health minister was not taken out long ago. But as I said, that is the prerogative.
After Sputnik V,
that's the prerogative of the president.
Very well.
And the president felt that at that particular point in time, he needed to keep him there for some time. Now he's taking a decision. That's what you were asking for, guys. The man has done it too. He's saying that it's too late. My words.
The timing. Honorable,
lawyer wanted it to be done. It's been done. Honorable Hussaini.
Well, so it has been done, and then I think that like I said, but the government say that if you repeat a good thing, repetition is good, apart from a slap. So once again, let me congratulate you. And there are many guys in the new reshuffle that are ought to congratulate, like Amin Anta, who has he was initially posted as the deputy regional minister under Kofo before he went to this thing. Now, but the whole to do what?
to be fair.
The Northerners have got a lot of faces, so that's not news. The Northerners have got a lot of faces. I mean, so he's adding to those who have been first in the. We are still trying to catch up with our counterparts in the South. So I think that Nana Akufo-Addo's reshuffle is really a slap in the face of Ghanaians. And it has gone to confirm what we have always known about Nana Akufo-Addo, that he's an obstinate old man who will listen to no advice and do things at the time he pleases. He's also brought to the fore the impunity in his government. Okay? Collins is a fine man. I have no doubt that he has capabilities. That prevented the president from giving you opportunity to serve the country at the time that there was time. That prevented the government. What prevented Nana Akufo-Addo from doing that? Now, he's going to go to the ministry. He has 10 months. He's an MP. The Colonel is going to vet them. When Parliament will vet them, we don't know yet. If vetting is in March, then it becomes 9 months. Yes, he's from a safe constituency, but he has to go back to his people. Now, you put him in a very difficult situation because now he's going to be seen as a deputy energy minister. And so, to whom much is given?
Much is expected.
Why will you do that to this man? Why will you do that to him? Nana Akufo-Addo had an opportunity after the first term to assess his ministers. The first term, that's the end of government. Then you go back to the people to renew your mandate. When we said that he should change them after the first term because some of them were not doing well, Nana Akufo-Addo publicly told the whole of Ghana that those who were making those calls were looking for jobs. I don't think Collins was looking for a job. I don't think so. Neither was Mohamed Amin Adam looking for a job. because they were there, they were available. Now, and I'm quite worried because what has he done? It's just like he's allowed people to eat the meat. And he's now telling Collins and Amin and Co to go and deal with the bones. That's what he's done. Now, again, we're in a desperate situation. And desperate measures call for desperate solutions. We're looking to revamp, inspire the people of Ghana that you really mean well for them. Up to now, since yesterday, I've been wondering what Dr. Mark Asibe Yeboah has done to the president that he doesn't want to hear him. Because this is a person who worked at the Bank of Ghana, was your finance committee chairman for 7 good years. When NDC was in opposition, in power, he was a ranking of the finance. Now, when calls for the replacement of Ken Ofori-Atta were loudest, the World Bank even predicted that if Ken Ofori-Atta was going to go, Mark Asibe Yeboah will come in. The president doesn't see politics in him. He doesn't see, and this is somebody, I'm not MPP, but this is somebody I've worked with in Parliament. And I thought that in this our precarious situation, we were looking to position people like Okwe, what's his name? Okoboy. Position people and inspire some confidence and respect for those people. Not that I do not respect Mohamed Amin Anta, but he's just going to continue with what his boss was doing, the Minister of Finance. He's just going to continue. Now, he's been too familiar with the Ministry of Finance that you don't expect any radical change. You see, when I was doing strategic management studies, we came across a concept of destructive innovation. An innovation that turns the whole, we no longer use the post office to post letters. So when we build giant structures as post offices, they are not redundant. You know what made them redundant? Do you know? The internet. Whoever invented the internet had created a radical innovation that rendered the post office useless. Because now, you want to post your letter, you just write it and post it. And the instantaneous receipt of that letter. Or the Kodak camera. Do you know the Kodak camera?
Oh, yes.
Is it still in use? Good. Yes. So whoever invented that. So you see, when you are trying to solve a problem, you need a solution that will radically transform that place, especially in view of the time that is left. In view of the time, you need people who are sufficiently well-versed in their areas of operation that you are matching them to action. The reshuffle has come a little too late in the day. And I don't think that it will make an impact. It will help Collins and others to improve upon their CVs so that in future, in the unlikely event of the MPP coming back again, they can say that they were deputy ministers and they had experience here. But they are not going to be able to do much. First of all, those who have never had opportunity to go to the ministries that they are will have to go and read a lot of documents. A lot. And I'm not surprised that Collins has already admitted that he's reading. Because when I was nominated Deputy Minister of Energy, that was what I did. You have to read and read and read. Not that you are reading because you want to change what they have done, but you are reading to understand what goes on at the ministry. And you know, incremental knowledge, you cannot do all the reading and know everything at once. That's why you need time. There's no doubt that a person of his caliber can make a difference, but it is only with time. But he doesn't have it. So my fear for people, good people, who have known in parliament, who are now part of this administration, is that they will be able to achieve so little that they will be blamed. They will also be part of the blame for the failure of Nana Akufo-Addo.
What if they are able to achieve something?
They will not be able to achieve anything.
Why?
Because of time difference. I mean, time is their greatest enemy. They don't have the time. They don't. And most of them are MPs. They will be shuttling between the office and their constituencies. So that's why I'm saying that it's a slap in the face for Ghanaians. Yeah, okay, you want a reshuffle. This, take a reshuffle. That's in my language. That's what. So you want a reshuffle. This is your reshuffle.
Anyway.
You see. So, but then again, you come to look at it. The parliamentary new standing orders, they've come into force. Eh?
Yes. Yes.
So when we were in Parliament, it was argued and found space in the new standing orders that anytime ministers are reshuffled or moved, they must be vetted. Because if you were a minister, if you were vetted a deputy minister for energy or information, and you have now been moved, or if you were a minister of information, you were vetted for that ministry, and you have now been moved to works and housing, that it stands to reason that because you were not vetted for that, you should be vetted. I don't know whether that has found expression in the standing order.
The new standing But what I know is that the last experience that when ministers were moved, they were not vetted.
No, but that new standing orders was not there.
Yeah.
Yes. The new standing, when I was in Lands and Natural Resources and I was moved to Roads and Highways, I was not vetted.
Some have even argued that the qualifications to become an MP is similar to become a minister or a deputy minister. So some have even argued that once you've been able to go through the process and become a member of parliament, there's no need for you to be vetted.
Actually, not that I've argued. Under the prime ministerial system,
okay,
or Westminster system, if you are a member of parliament and you are nominated minister, you don't go through vetting. Okay, right. Because the qualification of a minister is somebody who is qualified to be a member of parliament. Okay, that's why when you look at the 1969 constitution, ministers of state were not vetted. That provision was not in the 1969 constitution. We only found expression in the 1979 constitution when we were practicing a strict system of government, a strict separation of powers, strict presidential system of government, and so ministers were not to be members of parliament. And so you otherwise had to qualify to be a member of parliament to be a minister.
Okay.
Then when we fused the 1969 constitution with the 1979 constitution, we found the prior approval. Okay? And then you had Article 78(1), which says that a majority of the ministers must be appointed from parliament. So we have come some way. But I've looked at the press release. I don't know whether it is the press secretary of the president who made that mistake. The first list all the ministers and deputy ministers who have been relieved of their positions. You saw it?
Yes.
So what does it mean in terms of Article 78 and 79? Or in terms of Article 81? It's a revocation of appointment. So it raises a jurisprudential issue. If you revoke somebody's appointment as a minister and thank them for their service, can you reassign them
to other positions?
Yes.
Why can't that be?
No, because you have revoked. So immediately you revoke, they no longer are ministers.
Yes, and I've appointed them into new
No,
positions.
so if you appoint them,
Yes,
it's
so
a
they are new
appointment.
appointment,
So
yes.
they have to be vetted.
Okay. I get you where you're coming from. Okay.
Yeah, you understand?
All right, okay.
So you can't say you have reassigned them because the first information comes that no, I've revoked and thank them. Actually, at the end of that in section A, he actually thanks all the ministers and deputy ministers for their service.
Okay, I get your point.
Then you come and say you have reassigned them. My feeling is that after revocation, any appointment is a new appointment. It's not reassignment. Okay. He could do what you have referred to in the past. That they didn't say we have relieved him. You just say this minister, ministerial reshuffle. Then they provide the name and then provide your new portfolio. And so they will say that you have been reassigned. We interpreted that to be reassigned. Okay, but it just came ministerial reshuffle. Okay, so we don't know. Parliament will have to, and you are in Parliament. Parliament will have to analyze and the import of what the president has done. Is it tantamount to a revocation under Article 81 of the Constitution, which will rob the president of any power to reassign? And so the reassignment will be interpreted as a new appointment, which will invoke the jurisdiction of the appointments committee to vet them, or what? So the case of J.H. Mensah and the Attorney General will come to play again. Where J.H. Mensah said, well, you can't continue in office, we must vet you. Ministers, we must vet you. So let's see what happens. But generally, I will say that as the rules ministry, is the president too normal to Asasu Boachi or what?
Why?
He took him from the deputy chief of staff, sent him to, and now sent him to a higher place of roads and highways.
Why?
What is the president? What's happening? Or there's some unholy alliance between Asasu Boachi and the president or what?
Why did you ask why Abu Jinapor is still in office? Why are you complaining about
Abu Jinapor has not been moved.
So they
has not been moved. My worry is simply
the president is satisfied with his performance.
So
he's moving.
I think that there's some alliance that they were running. In any case,
what
then I asked, so roads and highways. So the minister kept my good friend Amakwata in office for 7 years, and in the dying embers of his regime, he decides to change him, and claims that they achieved the best in road construction under Amakwata. Why didn't he let him finish? And in that case, Aduomi, do you know Aduomi?
Yes, I do.
He's a fine engineer, understands the dynamics of the road sector. I think that if the president leaves office, he will have a lot of people he can see. I'm telling you.
Also?
Yes, because there are a lot of people who have been hard done by this president. In terms of the way he has been making his appointments. Hard done by him.
I know he's the lead consultant for the main Accra Kumasi bypasses. The new ones that have been constructed.
No, Adobe is a fine engineer. He was my ranking. And when I was minister for roads and highways, he was the ranking on the committee. And do I understand? Me, I'm a lawyer. But through Adobe and many others engineers in the Ministry of Roads and Highways, I learned the rudiments, techniques of road construction and what goes into it. They have time. So when you go, learn from them.
All right,
They have time. So Adobe, Mr. President, you sacked him after the first term, and now even you have not had the courtesy of bringing him back when he understands.
But at least he gave him an opportunity in the first term.
Where? The first term. The first time even is questionable.
The president is watching the show, so he
the first time is questionable because the first time is questionable because you know under the system that you people think you like, they like the presidential system. The UP tradition likes the parliamentary system of government. Under that system, a ranking member is actually a shadow minister. He's put there to know and understand what goes on in the ministry. So when there is a change in power, he gets there because there will be an understanding. So he doesn't get there to learn, he gets there to continue because he understands it. Okay?
But the NDC does not believe in that system.
The NDC, I'm telling you, I'm talking about you people.
Well, let me come to Mr. Francis.
Well, it is possible, or maybe it is even the reality, that amongst the new appointees are brilliant individuals. And the fact that this morning we have congratulated our brother Collins shows that there is some, at least for Collins, and maybe a few others. But you see, all those who understand the game of football know that the individual brilliance of players is not important at all. The most important thing is for the team to gel together, to play as a team. So individual brilliance may in a match bring a sparkle of dribbling tactics and so on, but it doesn't lead to victories. Okay. And it's so with cabinet, it's so with ministerial appointments and so on. Now, you have to understand clearly that all ministers have only one duty: to work for the president to achieve his mission, or what he defines as his mission. So the president is key. If the mission of the president is not properly crafted, if the mission of the president is off point, he can appoint the best of ministers, but they will fail. And this is at the level of theory. Okay. Now, every reshuffle or every appointment, if you examine it, you begin to identify trends. And the trends are very, very important, more important than the capacity of the individuals in the government. Now, what are some of the trends that we identified? And I'd like to start first with the Ministry of Finance. Now, we had a situation where the majority of members of parliament, from both the so-called minority and the so-called majority, agreed that the finance minister was a failure and had to go home. The president had a meeting with his own caucus in parliament and said, look, let him go to IMF. When he finishes with IMF, then he can go home. Now, that was a problem ab initio. And what was the problem? The president acted as if going to negotiate with the IMF did not require competence. That's the problem is that he's incompetent. Why would he then go to the IMF where perhaps more competence is required? Okay. But he goes there, the negotiations are finished, the first tranche has come. I think we are still expecting the second tranche. And then we are told there's a reshuffle. I've seen newspaper headlines who say that he has been sacked, he has been removed. He has neither been sacked nor removed. I think he's been promoted. Now, why do I say this? The initial information we got was that he was going to be made senior presidential advisor on finance and the economy, and that his position was not to be announced. And I believe that because if you look at the first list, that position was not in it. It was because some of us in the media yesterday exposed this that I think hurriedly the announcement was made. Now, if you look at the governance structure, this guy, Kennedy Ken Ofori-Atta, is now senior presidential advisor on finance and the economy. And there's another designation which I find very strange. He's now the president's envoy, dealing with international transactions and so on. No, so when he speaks directly with the voice of the president. He acts directly with the authority of the president. Now, if he's advising the president on the direction of the state of the economy and so on, who is the Minister of Finance then? So this is a huge elevation. Now, considering the fact that the current Minister of Finance was his subordinate, even deepens the crisis. Why can't the president let Ken Ofori-Atta go home? Now, from sources that we've had, there are indications that his exit was negotiated over a number of days. It wasn't easy. He didn't want to go. And what has come out finally is the result of negotiations. The president, where is his authority? Because even when he's dismissing ministers, he's not required to give reasons. He has unlimited authority when it comes to the appointment and disappointment of ministers and so on. Why is this the case with Ken Ofori-Atta? I don't understand. Now, it's important. If you read the Daily Guide report, it's very interesting. And I deliberately chose the Daily Guide. It's very interesting. The Daily Guide writes, first paragraph, President Akufo-Addo yesterday flew out of the country to an undisclosed destination abroad on official assignment after carrying out a much anticipated reshuffling of his government. Much anticipated reshuffling of his government. The process appears to show that the president has finally bowed to growing pressure by both party faithful and others to reshuffle his government. After the much awaited and almost something. So the clearest indication is that the president is not doing this on his free will. And that he's been under pressure both from within the party and outside the party to carry out a reshuffle. Why that pressure? One, the number of persons he has appointed has been a problem. To the extent that his own vice president has come out to say that what? The ministers are just too many. And that if he's giving the nod, he will reduce what his boss did to only 50 ministers. Okay. Now, this reshuffle has not dealt with that. There's no indication that this reshuffle has dealt with the huge numbers of ministers. Now, obviously, the other reason why there was a clamor for reshuffle was the level of competence of the ministerial team. This country is in deep crisis. Everywhere you turn, crisis. Forward, crisis. Backward, crisis, and so on. So there was that clamor. I'm yet to receive any assurance that this reshuffle will bring any new level of competence to the administration. I say this for many reasons. One reason, I've heard those who have been ministers before, I've heard senior people in government and outside government say that it takes at least 6 months for new ministers to acclimatize, to know the ministries where they are going, to be able to establish the linkages and so on, 6 months. Now you have 9 months to an election. KOD, you have 9 months to an election. So they spend 6 months acclimatizing and they are left with 3 months. Now what is worse is that many of the people who have been appointed, and that also appears to be the strategy, are persons contesting parliamentary elections. You watch. And if you watch, the people contesting parliamentary elections have been placed in strategic ministries. So you tend to get the impression that this reshuffle is also partly about strengthening NPP parliamentary candidates to win. That impression is clear in all of this, you know. Now, at the end of the day, what are we looking for? One of the reasons for this reshuffle may simply be that the president is asserting his authority. You remember that earlier on, the claim had been made that he would be a sitting duck president. And he had reacted, you know, very seriously and said, no, he's not going to be a sitting duck president and that he'll be in charge until the very last day. What a better way of demonstrating that he's in charge and that if you don't play ball, he can throw you out. And that if you play ball, he can bring you in. There's no better way of demonstrating that than this. Now, if that is the game, and he has also been heard to say that people in his party and his government ought to defend his record, and that he's not happy with people in his government and also in his party distancing themselves from his record and suggesting that his record is bad. This may be a direct shot to presidential candidate Bawumia, who is so busy distancing himself from the president and so ungratefully creating the impression that if there's a problem, put it on Akufo-Addo. If there's a gain, let me carry it. You understand? Now, to what extent was he involved in this reshuffle? We don't know. We don't know the full facts. But at least what we know is that as vice president, he's also the leader of the economic management team, which is supposed to be advising the president on finance and the economy, and which is supposed to be leading the charge when it comes to international investment and international negotiations. Now, by the appointment of a specific individual as special presidential advisor, where does that leave the vice president and his portfolio as head of the economic management team? You understand? So there are so many questions. Now, whether all of them or some of them are going to go through vetting, it will still be interesting. I'm waiting with bated breath to see what the opposition in parliament will do with these appointments too. In the past, the so-called opposition has been ridiculous, extremely ridiculous. I've heard opposition members of parliament say that they approved a ministerial appointment of somebody because she comes from my region. What? Comes from your region? Unbelievable. And I've heard them, some of them say that, so-and-so person, when she was in the ministerial position, helped us a lot. Hey, what help? What help? You see, and in all the discussions about the reshuffle, I've been stunned by one thing. People claim that this is the first time a Northerner is becoming Minister of Finance. So what? The Minister of Finance or any other minister, their duty is to solve problems. If the minister comes from Kaswa and works so hard as to stabilize the national currency, what do I care where he comes from? In fact, if he comes from Gomwa Drama, or Gomwa Apam or whatever, and he manages to stabilize the national currency, what do I care? If he's from Musuku, what do I care? There's a job to be done. It's not about the region where he comes from, it's not about the language he speaks, and it's not about how he walks. That's not the issue. At least one thing has been settled, okay? Over the last 7 years, one thing has been settled. That recitations from the Bible do not necessarily lead to the solution of economic problems. That we have settled. You understand? So the religious coloring of ministers and so on is not something that we'll be worried about from now on. A white gown wearing, Bible reciting person has failed miserably in the Ministry of Finance. So it's not about quoting from the book of Ezekiel and so on. That is not the issue. Very soon, it may also be proven, and I think we've proven it even in the past, that the region where a minister comes from is not so key as to the performance of the minister. And by extension, whether the future president comes from the north, south, east, or west is immaterial as far as the Ghanaian people are concerned. We want results. You understand? Over the last 2 years, prices of basic goods and services in some instances have gone up by 500%. Does it matter whether the future president is a Basari or is an Nzima? It doesn't matter. Does it matter whether the future president comes from the north or the west? It doesn't matter. There are concrete problems which need to be solved. In any case, those who are playing regional politics, unfortunately for them, so far, 2 of the presidential aspirants, prominent, are all from the north. So the northern equation has been shattered completely. If you vote for Bahama, it's a northerner who will become president. If you vote for Bawumia, it's a northerner who will become president. And I suspect that someone like Mama Ayariga will still be there as a presidential candidate. If you vote for him, he's a northerner. And then our good friend Bernard Mona, who has already started walking around with his horse tail, you know, he is also from the north. And so that thing is so nonsensical that we should not repeat it when it comes to the evaluation of the appointment of ministers and potential for people to become national leaders and so on. It is not about tribe, it's not about religion. It ought first and foremost to be about a capacity to resolve the problems which confront us. But why were you laughing when I spoke about Bernard Mona? All of you were laughing. Why?
You said he was holding his
The chief.
No, but he has been holding this hostel for a long time. And it's not just a hostel. It's a hostel and a walking stick.
The chief.
For a long time, not today. Anyway.
I see. I saw you pen down a few things.
Oh, yes.
Please, the floor is yours.
First,
It
let
shouldn't
me
make his matter worse.
let me thank my uncles for the congratulatory message, and I know they're happy for me.
No, you deserve it.
Yeah, thank you.
You deserve it.
Thank
I
you.
mean, I've watched you over a long period of time. And one thing I can say for sure, and say it with my chest up, you know, is that you are not an abrasive person. And you are reflective. You know, and I have no reason to think that any one of us loves our country more than you. And for me, these are important ingredients in the participation in government. So we didn't say it out, I didn't say it out of jest, and he didn't. And since yesterday, I've heard many people congratulating you. I think you deserve it.
Thank you.
So no need to thank us.
thank us.
Okay. Thank you.
No, even before he comes. Dangote has been moved.
That's right.
And then somebody has been appointed to go there.
His deputy has been elevated.
So his deputy will go for vetting.
Yes, we'll go for better.
But there's a suggestion that Dangote has not actually been removed and that he's being positioned to become the campaign manager of Bawumia. And yesterday I said it publicly that I'll be shocked if he accepts that position.
So
the Dangote I know is not the Dangote who is going to become a campaign manager for Bawumia. And if he does that, I'll be shocked.
No, but Dangote he shocked us many times.
No, but
Dangote was the general secretary of the MPP. And you know that in security of tenure, the general secretary of the MPP has more security of tenure than the minister of state.
True.
And he left it and went to become I was more shocked. So
I wasn't shocked at all because then you could say that he was not pursuing a personal interest.
Well,
He was ready to sacrifice the security of tenure for national good.
openly declared his support for Bawumia.
No,
During the primaries.
So my
Can I tell you,
legal issue that I want to raise is that if Dangote is no longer the
Yes.
minister of rural development, or local government and rural development and decentralization, under what powers did Nana Akufo-Addo appoint a deputy minister? Because the constitution says that the deputy minister is appointed in consultation with or under advice of the minister. The minister must be in place before you can appoint a deputy minister. That's what the constitution says.
Okay, that's an interesting point.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yes.
So,
But that would also go for the Ministry of Information.
Yes.
But the Ministry of Information is removed.
Moved.
And then a deputy is appointed. Was the deputy's appointment in consultation with the minister? You know, all these issues.
Yeah.
so I
People are congratulating you. The WhatsApp is full of praises.
Thank
So I will read it.
He's a gentleman.
I listened to
And what I'm going to say, he will dispute, he will argue. I don't mind. You know, when you find people like this, in a government like this, it's a breath of fresh air.
No, that's why I said that. Some of you should have been given the opportunity earlier. Because if you are given the opportunity at the dying minute, you only go to spoil your record. That's why I believe that some of them are good and they should have been given enough opportunity. And that what Nana Akufo-Addo has done, it's a slap in our face.
Okay, honorable. Now, yeah, you have the floor.
Mr. Fuseni described Nana Addo as an obsolete old man.
Obstinate.
Yeah.
Obstinate.
Okay.
No, obstinate.
Okay, all right.
Difficult.
And the basis for that is that Nana Addo has done this at a time that he felt it's just too late. Just for the records, Mr. Mahama did some changes in his last year. Yes. In 2016 January, there was a reshuffle. Indeed, as late as August, he did some deputy ministerial reshuffle. So it's all about the decision by the president. And I don't think Nana Addo doing so in February makes him a very difficult person. I don't know how you're going to describe Mr. Mahama, whether he was difficult or not, because he did say him in a very... Yes, and I'm saying that. So the point I'm making is
that this is too late.
So I'm just saying that is an opinion he's sharing.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that Mr. Fuseni's description of Mr.
Akufo-Addo, you know him.
That is too hard. But I'm saying Mr. Mahama did say it as late as August, June, July. So I'm saying
Mahama did a lot of reshuffles.
Please let him.
Is Mr. Akufo-Addo president under pressure, or did he do this under pressure? Well, I don't know, because if he did so under pressure, this pressure to reshuffle started a long time ago, and I think he stood his grounds, and he's done it at his own time. I'm not too sure that can be described as being under pressure. I think he did it under his own time. Now on Ken Ofori-Atta.
I think the pressure was used initially in Ken Ofori-Atta's context.
I get you, but I'm saying that...
No, not just that. The party actually called for reshuffling. So.
Now on Ken Ofori-Atta
Yes,
being appointed a special advisor, and my uncle Kwesi Pratt thinks that is even an elevation, and that he even becomes more powerful than the finance minister himself. I'm reading this from Asasi Radio. The former finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, may be appointed as the senior presidential advisor on the economy, with focus on international investment and the capital markets, according to Asasi News sources in the office of the president and the Ministry of Finance. If appointed, his job will see him focusing on attracting international investment to Ghana. This should see him leveraging on his huge international network. Now, the operative word here is that he's an advisor to the president. Whether the president takes his advice or not is another matter. I do not see how an advisor to the president to become more powerful than the finance minister. I don't see him as an advisor committing the state or the government to any serious contractual obligations. I don't see that. So I still see that, yes, Dr. Amin Anta is going to be his own man. He's going to be the one at the helm of affairs. Yes, the Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, based on the report I'm reading, with his international experience, can assist the president in advising the president on a few issues. But the operative word here is advisor. And the president reserves the right to accept that advice or not. I don't think it's difficult for the president to... the decision by the president now is clear that step aside, bring somebody else in. And I think Amin Anta is going to be independent. I don't see he's being asked to advise the president to be that now is even more powerful than what he used to be as a finance minister. I think that for me should be the clarity. And I think Dr. Amin, I'm sure, will be given the autonomy to do his work as the substantive Minister of Finance, and I don't think Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta will still be hovering around and giving instructions here and there. Dr. Amin, as I know, is quite a strong person, very assertive, very, 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 very intelligent, very strong. Of course, this is his boss, his predecessor. I don't think there's anything wrong with he seeking some clarifications or advice from him. But I think he will remain an advisor, and that's it. I don't think he's going to be more powerful than the finance minister. Yeah.
Master, you have tried. You have tried very, very hard. But I don't think that you have succeeded. Just tried. Look, technically, every minister is an advisor to the president. Technically.
That's true.
So the current or newly appointed Minister for Finance and Economic Planning ought to be the advisor to the president on finance and economy and all the things which have been given to Ken Ofori-Atta. Now what has happened is that first you have the Economic Management Committee, which in theory is supposed to be the apex body as far as the president's capacity to assemble information and advice and so on. Okay. But now, in addition to the economic management team, you have created this office of senior advisor.
Now, Uncle Z, respectfully, this position of senior advisor, I'm not too sure it's peculiar to Nana Addo's government.
I'm not saying it is.
Okay, all right. Okay.
But it has been created now.
Okay. No, it's something that has occurred before.
In the Akufo-Addo administration, this is the first time it's being created. Senior. The word senior was not recklessly chosen. Unless you want to argue that it was recklessly chosen.
I don't think so.
It was meant to carry...
I remember during Mills' time, there were advisors, economic advisors to the president. I know.
I'm saying that senior was deliberately chosen, unless it was reckless.
Okay.
And I don't think that the president is reckless. If you want to say that he's reckless, that's up to you. You understand?
I can't say that.
You can't say that. So you agree with me that it was a carefully chosen title. What was that meant to convey? You see, messages. There's a way of discerning messages. If you look at the current governance structure, there are two senior advisors to the president.
Yeah.
Osafo Maafo and Ken Ofori-Atta. Look at Osafo Maafo's stature in the party and in society. So if Ken Ofori-Atta is given a title, which is the equivalent of the title that Osafo Maafo enjoys, can you imagine the weight?
Yeah, now I get your point.
I mean, it's so weighty. Which minister can go in front of Osafo Maafo and misbehave? And he carries the same title as Ken Ofori-Atta. The message is clear. You understand? Now, how do you have a minister of finance who is incapacitated when it comes to dealing with international financial agreements and so on, and is still sitting there, making it necessary to appoint somebody senior, special, to deal with that? Because the impression that is created is that there are some special assignments which are above the capacity of the minister. And therefore, the president needs a senior advisor to be able to deal with that portfolio. I think it's unfair to Amin Anta, very unfair to Amin Anta, and above all else, doesn't jive with what we know about the running of the economy over the last 7 years. Look, all the rating agencies are telling us that the performance of Ken Ofori-Atta is bad. He can't go to the capital market. You understand? Why is he then the envoy to deal with this? It doesn't make sense. At all. It doesn't make sense at all.
If he's appointed, it's part of the scheme to deplete Ghana's resources, public resources. Because you are saying that he's for international investment. He will be senior advisor on international investment.
No, he's senior advisor on finance and the economy.
Yeah, no,
but special envoy
A special envoy for international development. Special envoy is different.
No, but what I read, there was no special envoy. What I read.
Wait, I'll find it for you.
No,
just
what I
now.
read, I'm saying.
What did you read?
I'm just saying what the report I read from Asase Radio did not indicate.
Okay, that's the report I also read.
Yes.
It said,
I've
read other reports
senior advisor
describe
on
him as
investment.
He said the
envoy.
former finance minister may be appointed as a senior presidential advisor on the economy, with focus on international investment and the capital markets.
Wait,
Yes.
so what becomes of Bawumia then? Because he is supposed to be
No, he's a economic
management.
That's it.
That is
That's
different.
it.
senior advisor
That's
to
different.
the
You can
president
have
on.
So he's putting
No.
Bawumia.
That's what I'm saying.
All governments have had, all presidents have had economic advisors. When there was still an economic management team, that is not something unusual, and he knows it. That's not
Economic
something unusual.
advisor is different from senior
economic
economic advisor
No, the point-
and envoy.
No, I'm saying
Presidential
This is
envoy.
more serious.
envoy.
This is more serious. When in the face. No, this is even more serious.
I just want to clarify.
Is what you don't want to hear.
But I just want to clarify that it's
Yes,
not
I know about
unusual
it.
to have an economic management team,
Right.
but have an advisor on economy to the president. That is something that is within the governance architecture. I remember
But
Cardinal
Master,
Mills,
even if it has been
advisors.
done before, I think that it is not correct.
It's not politically correct.
And in the case of Cardinal Mills, I know why it was there.
Okay.
He needed to be given a title so that he could operate around his brother. And he did many things for his brother because of the state of health of his brother. And so on. You know, and I know why.
Okay.
But even then, I think that it's not proper.
What is even more worrying is that Bawumia, even in the face of constitutional provisions giving him certain specific responsibilities,
Say that he's an apprentice.
No. I don't think. No.
says that is
Let's give him some time.
As for being a mate, Mr. Mahama to say he was a spare driver.
Oh, that's
He
it.
made it clear.
Spare
He's a spare
driver and
driver.
mate are not
He's
the
a
same.
spare driver.
Apprentice
He's a
and
spare driver. He's a
are
spare
not the same.
driver. Okay. He's a spare driver.
But have you actually heard what Atta Kennedy has written about Dr. Bawumia and his...
I'm not surprised. He has always been negative about
and his
Dr. Bawumia.
applicationism.
He has always been negative about.
It's devastating. Have you read it?
He has always been
No, I'll
negative.
read the concluding paragraphs. Just the concluding paragraphs, short paragraphs. This is Atta Kennedy, campaign manager for Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
In 2000.
Yes, but campaign manager, yes.
This
Once
was
upon a time, he was
2008.
campaign manager.
He was campaign manager for Nana
In
Akufo-Addo.
2008.
Once upon a time, he was a campaign manager.
Yes.
Then it's important to bring the year 2008.
I bring
Once
it.
upon a time, he was a
I've added it.
Okay, all right.
In 2008,
Yes.
Nana Akufo-Addo saw him as the most competent and intelligent person to manage his campaign.
Yes, but Nana Akufo-Addo lost the election.
So,
He lost.
But he was a campaign manager.
look, Atta Kennedy is listening to you
Yes, I'm also. What I'm saying is a fact.
because he's an avid watcher of this
And
program.
I love him. I read his write-ups, but I'm also making a factual statement that Nana Akufo-Addo lost.
Okay.
With him as a campaign manager.
Okay.
That's the point I'm making.
But the other factual thing
Yes.
is that this is what he has written. What I'm
Okay,
about
no
to read. And he says, listen, so it appears that this Aplanke bull is another example of the brilliant Bawumia's penchant for putting cleverness before common sense. It does not comport with facts, makes him sound ungrateful, and feeds into the unfortunate perception of him as an ambitious man who would do or say anything to get elected. It does not serve him well. The mantle of the most consequential vice president in our history looks better than Aplanke. Let's cut the bull. Finally, I have a sneaky suspicion that this whole Aplanke narrative may be one more Machiavellian maneuver by the Chevy Mafia to hang on to power. Let Dr. Bawumia stop the buffoonery and make his case for the presidency to Ghanaians. They will judge him fairly. Long live Ghana, Atta Kwabena Kennedy. 10th February 2024.
Uncle, see, I disagree totally with Arthur Kennedy's assertion and his narrative and the way I disagree with him. Dr. Bawumia's,
Who can stop people from disagreeing with you?
yes, Dr. Bawumia's point about he being a chairman of EMT and the fact that the EMT is more an advisory body.
That is not what is addressing. It's the aplanqueism.
What a planqué? As a mate. He's a mate. Just as Mr. Mahama said that he was a spare driver. He was not in control. He didn't take the decision.
The spare driver has a license. The spare driver.
But he did not take.
Masa,
he did not take final decisions.
Masa, I beg you.
Yes, he did not take final decisions.
The spare driver is qualified to drive. He has a license. He has all the qualifications that the original driver has. And a planqué may not have a license.
You said me,
may not
but
be
the point I'm
qualified to
making
drive.
is that even the spare driver, once the driver is in charge, has no business taking final decisions. Listen, I have a let me read this. Let me read this statement.
Honorable, I'm going to give you some information which may shock you. Information which may not even be in the public domain. And I'm taking the risks of making it public.
Then don't make it public. After
I am.
You tell me after.
I am. To deal with this aplanqué business.
Yeah.
You know, Bawumia says that, look, I didn't have powers. I was only an aplanqué. Things were going in the right direction. And I stayed in it for 7 years without complaining, waiting for my turn to take over the wheels. Mahama is not like that. Mahama, when things were going in a manner that he felt were not correct, argued, fought, resisted. And as a matter of fact, during the Mills tenure, Mahama resigned twice. That's a big difference.
Well, Uncle,
so he's not an aplanqué.
No.
I'm making this information public for the first time.
I think I've read somewhere. I read a book, the book by Ahoyes. That at the point in time, Mr. Mahama wanted. I've read that book.
So Mahama will do what he believes in.
No, but Mr.
He would not, as vice president, he didn't just go along.
But Dr. Bawumia's point that the EMT is advisory, it's not in doubt. It is not in doubt. I have a letter.
But we are not talking about EMT.
No, that was the point Dr. Bawumia was making.
No.
I'm coming. That he was in the position to advise.
Don't it.
No. He was in the position to advise. As to whether the driver picks the advice or not, it's another matter. And he's saying that when given the chance to drive, he's going to take a certain direction. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And in fact, there was a time when there was a debate about whether His Excellency John Dramani Mahama was the chairman of EMT or not. There was a debate around it. Yes. Now, I got this letter dated 23rd November 2010. This is DSA, appointment as member of the economic management team. This was signed by J.K. Bebaku Mensah, Secretary to the President. Pursuant to Article 77.2 and as part of steps to enhance the work of Cabinet, it has pleased His Excellency the President to appoint you as a member of the economic management team with effect from 1st June 2010. So it was retrospective. The economic management team will be chaired by His Excellency the Vice President, then John Dramani Mahama, and shall advise Cabinet on policies as determined by the chairman of the Cabinet. The EMT shall report to the chairperson of the Economic Committee of Cabinet after every EMT meeting held. So the point as to whether the EMT is an advisory body or not is clear. And that was the point Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia was making.
You have to take the points you have made in conjunction with other points which are equally valid. The Vice President and the President are elected on one ticket.
That's true.
So that's also a matter
you have
to take account of.
That's true.
In fact, our history has demonstrated that presidents cannot dismiss their vice.
No, they can't.
I get the point you're making.
So
yes, that's true.
All those things.
But the point Bawumia was making that the committee he chairs is an advisory capacity. It's not in doubt.
It's in doubt.
It's not. Because even a letter from Mr. Bebaku to His Excellency clearly shows that you are even to report to the economic committee of the cabinet.
All right, Bebaku's letter is not a constitutional provision.
So no, even for me, let me thank Collins too much for reading the letter. It has put to rest the issue that during the time of the Professor John Evans Atta Mills, there was no economic management team.
That has not been in doubt.
No. It has been that way.
To me,
Yes. So it has put to rest. I agree.
The only problem is the date.
The
only problem is the date of appointment. Appointment, because was sworn in 2009. This letter came in November 2010.
Yes. So,
appointing His Excellency the Vice President as chair of EMT, respectively from
so
first of June.
For me,
it was like a whole year.
For me, it has put to rest. I mean, I've heard people say that there was no NDC, and they refer to a letter that Mills had constituted some people, including the doctor, the one who was Yamson as advisors, and that this was the team. No, there was an economic management team. That's number one. Number two, when Dr. Bawumia said economic management team was an advisory body, no one doubted him. But his mate Aplenketin was not a reference to the economic management team. It was in reference to his role in government as vice president. Get the two difference.
And you have to take that along
yes.
That he was not the headmistress, but the assistant
headmistress. So you have to understand. So and we are saying that
Mr. Mama has corroborated that.
But
the driver is the driver. The driver is the driver. What do you expect? You are using
the last point. So first of all, lawyer, driver and spare driver are drivers. Driver and spare driver are drivers.
But the spare driver is
listen. No,
but it's not a spare driver.
It's not a spare driver.
But I'm saying
driver and spare driver.
Spare driver
are drivers. When one is driving, because a vehicle has only one steering, when one is on the steer, the other is a what? A spare.
Yeah.
You are a spare. Until the driver exits.
But
I won't blame you. You are saying that for a very long time you have not traveled on state transport.
Very long time.
You have been traveling on state transport. You realize that for state transport buses doing long journeys, they have more than one driver.
Yes.
And they change.
Yes.
After a certain number of hours, the spare driver takes.
No, that's not spare.
They
are drivers.
The driver is a driver.
This spare
Okay, so Collins, there's I don't know whether I should call it a rebuttal or a post by Felix Kwachofosu on Facebook responding to this same letter that you've read here.
I even had an argument with him.
Yes, and so he says that Master Collins, you of all persons.
No, this was when I posted.
Absolutely.
No, he had posted this letter.
Yes.
And blurred a certain portion, which was point 2 and 3.
Yes.
So I came back to find out from why the two portions were blurred.
Yes.
So when I got the full one, I then realized why it was blurred. It was blurred because
it was not in his favor.
Yes, because it fed to the narrative that Dr. Bawumia had posted, that indeed the EMT was advisory. And indeed, no. This banter on Facebook.
Okay, so this is a different matter.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But you understand the distinction between a spare driver and a driver's mate?
I say, whether you are spare or you're a mate, once the driver is in charge, you can't drive. That's the point he's making.
Yeah, but the spare driver is a driver who has a license to drive.
Who told you?
But spare driver.
This particular spare driver.
You don't get license.
The spare driver. The spare driver.
Dr. Bawumia.
Oh no, the spare driver. No, don't talk about spare drivers. But I think
last Saturday.
I think the import of both discussion was that
I made a promise of publishing the PhD thesis of Dr. Bawumia.
Yes.
I had it some time ago.
Yeah.
I have found it.
Fantastic.
If you're interested, I'll send it to you.
I'll be glad to have it.
And if you read his PhD thesis, you would understand many of the things happening today.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Lastly, you see, Collins, we were in Parliament together. Can you count the number of times Bawumia acted as president?
Oh, so many times.
So, what was the basis of him saying he's a spare driver?
Oh, but
Spare driver without a license. So when he appeared as president, he didn't have
I don't know when the president goes out for 3 days and you are
Acting.
I mean, it's just a
Okay,
constitutional
all right, this is from Ambassador Sampiale watching the show this morning. He said, I am thanking Uncle Kwesi for bringing out the best in Honorable Adomako to be appointed as a deputy minister. This happened on Metro TV. But I'm so happy Adomako has, for the first time, no, he's been here a number of times, appeared on Pan-African television. I'm sure this is the first time he's watching you on the show.
On the flights. No, I've not met him
Yeah.
in person before, but apparently he watches our program. So when I approach, honorable, I like the way. So thank you, Mr. Yamsam. Thank you.
A lot of people will be happy with your appointment. No, I'm telling you from the bottom, I don't flatter people. I have no need to flatter anybody. But so far the comments have been good, and I'm sure that a lot of people will be happy. Because you are not known as being abrasive, which is becoming the hallmark of your party now. You may disagree, but that's the view out there.
But interestingly, since the announcement, I've had some very interesting calls from my friends from the other side of the political divide, and sometimes quite humbling. Call from very senior people from the other side of the political divide.
Senior people on the other side of the political divide see quality.
Who talk to me and say,
They see quality. They see value.
We are not.
They don't see a Well, thank you very much, Honorable Collins. Thank you, Mr. Pratt. Thank you, Honorable Misal. And thank you very much for watching today's edition of Good Morning Africa. My name is Kwame Owusu, so I trust you enjoy the show. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.